Sam Elliott knows Westerns. He's one of the last true Western stars still working today, and he's made it very clear how he feels about the genre. So when The Power of the Dog came out, this big, critically acclaimed Netflix Western, people were curious what he'd think. And, well, he hated it. Not just wasn't a fan, he absolutely tore into it, called it a piece of shit, went on this whole rant about how the movie got cowboys wrong, how the characters looked more like Chippendales dancers than actual ranchers. That's what all these fucking cowboys in that movie look like, he said. They're all running around in chaps and no shirts. And that wasn't the only thing that pissed him off. The movie is set in Montana, but it wasn't even shot there. Elliott had a real problem with that, calling out the fact that they filmed the whole thing in New Zealand. And to be fair, he wasn't completely wrong. Originally, Campion did want to shoot in Montana. She and her team even scouted locations there, talked to people who knew the history, and spent time on the real ranch that inspired the novel. But Netflix wasn't willing to cover the extra costs, so they went with New Zealand instead. Elliott still took a shot at Jane Campion, saying, "What the hell does this woman from New Zealand know about the American West?" And here's the thing, he didn't just say this offhand in some interview. He went off publicly on Mark Maron's podcast. Maron brought up the movie, and Elliott's immediate response was, "Yeah, you want to talk about that piece of shit?" And he didn't stop there. He was mad about the way the film portrayed cowboys. Mad that it was shot in New Zealand instead of Montana. Mad about the subtext in the movie. Everything about it rubbed him the wrong way. The irony here is, at the time, Elliott had just finished shooting 1883, a Western series created by Taylor Sheridan, who also doesn't really play by Hollywood's rules. But while Elliott loved Sheridan's take on the West, he felt The Power of the Dog completely missed the mark. He said, "The myth is that cowboys were these macho men out there with cattle. But I just came from Texas, where I was hanging out with real families, and when I saw that movie, I thought, what the fuck?" Of course, the backlash was immediate. The movie was one of the frontrunners for that year's Oscars, with 12 nominations, and Campion even won Best Director. People weren't happy with Elliott's comments, and he backtracked. Fast. A few weeks later, he came out with a full apology saying, "I thought Jane Campion was a brilliant director, and I want to apologize to the cast of The Power of the Dog, brilliant actors all." He even singled out Benedict Cumberbatch, saying he felt terrible if he had hurt anyone. And meanwhile, Cumberbatch went all in on this role. Jane Campion actually introduced him to the crew as Phil, not Benedict, telling everyone they wouldn't actually meet him until filming was over. He didn't wash for almost 2 weeks. He chain-smoked so much he got nicotine poisoning 3 times. And he and Kirsten Dunst didn't speak at all during the shoot because their characters hated each other. He was completely committed. So, did The Power of the Dog deserve Elliott's rant? That's up for debate. But one thing's for sure, this was the Western Sam Elliott hated more than any other. And for a guy who spent his whole life making cowboy movies, that says a lot.